In our last explainer, we looked at how nature shaped our climate over millions of years. But today, we're zeroing in on a much shorter and way more dramatic story, just the last 150 years. This isn't about rocks and ice ages. Nope, this is a story about us. Let's get into how our world changed everything. So our story kicks off right here, back in the mid-1800s. You gotta think of the Industrial Revolution as like the starting gun going off. It launched this incredible era of invention, for sure, but it also started a race of accelerating emissions that would totally reshape our planet in just a handful of generations. And this is the absolute core of it. We're not just talking about the day-to-day weather. I mean, the electricity powering your screen right now, the bus or car that gets you to school, the food you eat. Every single part of our modern lives has fundamentally changed the very air that surrounds our planet. So, where do we even begin? Well, we have to start with the biggest piece of the puzzle, the energy that powers pretty much everything we do. Yep, we're talking about fossil fuels. That's your coal, oil, and natural gas. This right here shows you a pretty incredible contrast, doesn't it? On one hand, you have nature, which spent millions and millions of years slowly packing away carbon deep underground to create fossil fuels. And then you have us. We figured out how to unlock all that ancient energy and release it back into the air at a breathtaking speed in just 150 years. And the scale of this it's just staggering. In 2023 alone, humanity released a record 37 billion tons of carbon dioxide just from burning fossil fuels. It's a number so big, it's almost impossible to get your head around. And this chart shows you exactly where most of it comes from. See that huge slice? Powering our homes, our factories, our cars, planes, and ships, the energy sector is responsible for almost 3/4 of all of it. It's the engine that runs our world, but it's also the main engine of climate change. Okay, next up, deforestation. We all know that cutting down trees is a bad thing, right? But its impact on the climate is actually, well, it's more complex and a lot more powerful than you probably think. So let's just think about that for a second. Why would we call it a double problem? What two things do you think are happening at the same time when we clear a big forest? Okay, here's the answer, and it's actually pretty clever. First, when forests are cut and burned, all the carbon that those trees have stored up for centuries gets released into the atmosphere instantly. And second, those trees are now gone, which means they can't do their job of absorbing more CO2 from the air in the future. So it adds carbon to the air, and it takes away our best natural defense against it. That's the double impact. And to see this happening for real, you just have to look at the Amazon, which people often call the lungs of the planet. In just the last 50 years, about 17% of the entire rainforest has vanished. All right, so beyond energy and forests, there are other huge sources of emissions, and they're kind of hiding in plain sight. We're talking about how we grow our food and how we build our world. Now, here's something you really need to know. Not all greenhouse gases are created equal. Take methane, for example. It's a gas that comes from livestock like cattle. And as you can see here, over a 20-year period, methane is about 80 times more powerful at trapping heat in our atmosphere than carbon dioxide is. It's super potent. And these hidden sources don't stop there. Methane also gets released from rice paddies. Fertilizers on farms release another powerful gas called nitrous oxide. And get this, just making cement, the stuff we use to build everything, is responsible for a whopping 8% of global CO2. Then you add in plastics and chemicals, and you start to see how these sources are woven into everything. So, what does this all mean? Look, it can feel like a lot, it can feel overwhelming, but here is the single most important thing to remember. This is not some natural disaster that we're helpless to stop. The challenge is huge, yes, but because we cause this, it also means that we can change it. Now, before we do a quick knowledge check, I want to share two facts with you that I think are genuinely surprising. They really help put this whole story into perspective. First, just look at this graph. Before the Industrial Revolution, CO2 levels in the air were pretty stable, right around 280 parts per million. Today, they're over 420. That is a 50% jump in just 150 years. Scientists have been tracking this continuously since 1958, and the data just shows an almost perfectly unbroken line, pointing straight up. And for the second fact, check out this comparison. A single round-trip flight from London to New York creates about 1.7 tons of CO2 for every single passenger. That one trip, just one flight, produces more carbon pollution than the average person in many lower-income countries produces from all of their activities in an entire year. It's a really stark reminder of the inequality at the heart of this problem. Okay, you have taken in a ton of information, so now it's time to see what's stuck. I'm going to ask a question, give you a few seconds to think, and then I'll reveal the answer. Ready? First question, what is the single biggest human cause of climate change? You got it. It's burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas for energy. Question number 2. Why do we call deforestation a double impact on the climate? Because it releases all that carbon stored in the trees, and it gets rid of the very trees that would have absorbed carbon in the future. And for our last question, what is that super potent greenhouse gas from cattle that's about 80 times more powerful than CO2 over a 20-year stretch? The answer is methane. Nicely done. And that actually completes our climate change series. Next time, we're kicking off a brand new topic, Australia. It's a continent of extremes and a place where the impacts of climate change are already a part of everyday life. We hope you'll join us for that.